And you know, this week I read in the Wall Street Journal, I was reading, they had an article about parents. And they said that 25% of parents feel highly stressed because of decisions schools were making. And what I want to point out with that is it's not unusual for families to feel stressed shifting from summer to fall into school. But the Wall Street Journal spoke directly to it was the decisions that we, the school, were making that were creating the stress. And I understand why. Something that we're trying to do is make our instruction and learning opportunities very consistent, simplicity in structure, so that our teachers can be excellent at what they do, which is teaching in the instructional part. That's the part we want to be complex, where we're meeting the needs of all students that come to us to learn. An example of that, of something that we've changed this year, is our AB schedule. For those of you new to the middle school, we had an AB schedule for some of our courses, meaning they met every other day. So if a student had fourth period, and they would have on the A day, meaning Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they would have, for example, Phi Ed. And on Tuesday, Thursday, they would then have a music class. So what that meant is a student would have 2 classes a week in the fourth period. We have now gone to semester classes. Students aren't missing any time, but they're not going to be alternating so that they have an extra teacher. And the teachers aren't going to have 30 extra students that they need to get to know on a weekly basis. So we've gone to semester courses. That's an example of a very direct and intentional way of what we're trying to do, is make it more simple for our teachers and our students and parents to really track the instruction and learning that should be happening. We believe students deserve our best. And I promise you, we will and are committed to doing just that. We need you as partners, and I'm pleased to see so many who have attended this new meeting today. The goal for today's town hall meeting are really, there's 3. The first is to talk about the advisory. I should say that's second. What will come first is really the distance learning schedule. And we will explain that so that you understand it in detail. The second thing that we're going to do is really talk about advisory family meeting time. And we've had such a great turnout. The vast majority of our families have already signed up. Thank you for being so proactive. It helps us. It will help us on Tuesday and Wednesday, providing an efficient and effective family meeting time with your advisory teacher. And the third is really to answer questions that you might have within the next hour. So I wonder if you would put up the next slide. I think, Jason, you're taking over and you're going to be talking about the student schedule.
Yes, thank you, Les. Good morning, everybody. Great to see everybody. And I want to give a special shout out. There are a lot of students on here, and it is great to see all of you. So thank you for joining. We wanted to spend a little bit of time because we're guessing many questions might revolve around the schedule that is going to be happening starting next week. So where you see the yellow boxes, so if I'm going to take Monday, for example, 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th hours would be happening live. And where you see any box, that class would be meeting live, all students with your teacher. That's what the live class structure looks like. And we try to do an odd even schedule to give some time in between. After most classes, because they're meeting twice a week, there most likely will be some sort of assignment, homework, something given pretty much every class, because there's going to have to be learning that takes place in between there. But that's where we're doing the odd even schedule. And this same schedule will be applicable when we're in a hybrid schedule. And part of the reason that we chose this schedule was that even if we're in hybrid learning or have to bounce back and forth from distance to hybrid learning or vice versa, this schedule will stay intact for students, for parents, for teachers. The schedule itself is the same. So there's not going to be a ton to have to remember if you go from one model to the other. It's the same no matter what model that we are in. This also we thought was the best schedule to engage all of our learners. There are some people that are doing all distance learning. Some people are doing hybrid learning where they're going to be at home or be coming into school if we get to that model. And hopefully this meets the needs of everybody as best as possible, given that there's a substantial amount of students kind of at every one of those models. A thing that I definitely want to talk a lot about today is the white boxes and the Wednesday schedule. And this is actually the first that this is being communicated out, what those times will be and what they will look like. The white boxes where it says student support, and we're going to get to the Wednesday schedule, which is its own slide. The white boxes are going to be time for teachers to individually or in a small group setting meet with students. And this is all going to be teacher directed, but what we are committing to as a school and promising to our students and our parents, for every class that you have, like, and I'll just use first hour, every student is going to meet at least one additional time with a teacher, their first hour teacher, every single week. So you're going to have your 2 live entire class meetings and lessons that happen. Those are the yellow boxes. And in the white boxes are going to be times that you're going to have a meeting at some point. So that might only be 1 meeting a week, but that's going to be in a most likely a small group setting, because most of our classes are around 30 students. But every student will get a small group individual, some extra meeting with their teacher to make sure that they're learning. If there's questions that need to be asked, that's an opportunity for a student to ask questions. And again, because it will be for sure in a smaller group at minimum, there'll just be more opportunity for relationship building and any support that student would need. So that's what will be happening in those white boxes. And we've also made some time on our Wednesday schedule. So Wanda, if you can advance to what Wednesday looks like. And this is where I kind of talked about the yellow boxes, the live teaching classes. This just speaks to that, happening twice a week. Attendance will be taken on those live classes, and the students are expected to all be there and hopefully being engaged. And I want to go to the next slide, where the Wednesday schedule. So even on Wednesdays, and this is something that we're gonna keep in place, but you can see that the times are a little bit different this day. So what we're trying to do on Wednesday is have some professional learning with our staff in the morning. You'll see the times for every hour. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, all the times are the same. But because we're trying to do a lot of things with this flexible day, you'll see that the times are different. But a teacher could be asking a student or a small group of students to come and meet with them on Wednesdays as well. You will also see that there is a large chunk of time starting at 1:32 that could be for a variety of things. So teachers may use that time to also engage with students. If we get to the point where we can do some student groups, that will provide time that wouldn't be a student missing class necessarily, that groups or clubs could meet. A community project is some of our culminating 8th grade international baccalaureate project. There could be some time for that. So some of that afternoon time is still being developed in terms of what that could be. But this is what our Wednesday schedule will look like. You can see we have a longer lunch period for everybody on Wednesdays. That was just because of a scheduling thing, but and we did put advisory at the same time. One thing I didn't really mention on the other schedule, advisory is our homeroom, and that will be something that's meeting every day still. So and even on Wednesdays, that advisory time, at least in distance learning, will be the same. When we get to a hybrid model, that advisory time will have to change, because if we're accommodating lunches, there's usually an advisory first time and an advisory last time. And I'm not trying to be confusing to new families. It becomes the same time, but that time will look a little bit different distance hybrid, only that advisory and 4th hour time.
I'm jumping in here with a question. What does PD mean? Professional development. It's a development that it's our own staff working together to improve instruction. Go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
And so the big thing we really want you guys hearing and taking away is that on the 3 kind of non-live times for every class, once a week you're going to have a time to meet with your teacher, and that's going to be scheduled by the teacher, and time that you'll be able to get help if you need it, extension activities if you need it. Wanda, can you go 1 slide forward? This kind of speaks to those possible options. What could that time look like? But again, that will be happening once a week for every student, every teacher, every class, every week. And that's something that we're proud of and looking forward to seeing what that can be, because that we've never had an opportunity like that at the middle school. Usually, our classes are start to finish. There really isn't time in between for something like this, and we're excited about what this could be for our students and for our teachers. So wanted to share that part with you. And Les, that kind of concludes at least my talking about the schedule here.
So let's stop here a moment and answer some questions in regard to the schedule before we go to advisory. And I see some in the comment section. So I'll answer some of these questions, and parents and community members, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the questions verbally. But one of the questions is attendance. Will that be taken on Wednesdays as well during advisory? Yes, it will. That will be taken. Advisory will be live on Wednesdays as well. All live classes will have attendance taken. And would we expect Wednesday sessions to be the same week to week? No, it will vary. It will vary based upon what the teacher really believes needs to happen. If there's particular enrichment or corrective work that needs to happen and something that's being understood, or a lack of understanding, the teacher will really make that determination. We call it in our business, what's loose and what's tight. What's tight is every student should be getting 3 live experiences, 2 of direct instruction weekly. And what's loose is how that'll get orchestrated, maybe that third one in particular, how that gets orchestrated during the week based upon what that student needs and what the teacher is thinking.
Just a couple other questions would be, how do teachers not conflict during individual meetings? So the plan would be that during like first hour white box student support or the first hour time on Wednesday, that would only be for first hour teachers to meet with kids. So this schedule provides that there won't be any overlapping. We found that out in the spring, that not having a schedule for teachers to follow in terms of meeting with kids did lead to kids having times that they were supposed to be in 2 places at once where they had to choose between that. The schedule will provide that I can only, if I have a first hour class, I only have those specified times. But again, the schedule gives me as a teacher almost 2 hours of time to make sure that I'm having at least one time a week, one touch point in a small group setting with each one of my students. But the schedule will provide that there won't be any overlap.
Les and Jason, can I ask a quick question? So back to that question about Wednesday sessions being the same week to week, but the schedule will stay the same, correct?
Could you ask that again, Michelle? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Is the schedule itself going to stay the same, or will that change week to week?
In terms of this, like a possible small group?
No, just the
Time?
schedule. If you went back to the slide, is that schedule going to stay the same as far as times, or is that going to change week to week?
No, the schedules that you're seeing are going to be in place for we're expecting for the year. Yep.
Or until we're fully physically in session. Are there other questions? Know that you will be getting this information as well. Again, and we call it type 2 change. On any change that is large in nature, where there's many details, we know that it has to be heard many times. That's why you will be hearing some of this as a repeat during your advisory sessions, during your sessions with the advisory teacher. That's also why you see that I send out a phone blast, e-blast. There's written communication coming through the mail and electronically, so that it's a greater chance that we penetrate and hit every person with the same information. You received a phone blast from me last night, 6th grade families did. Everyone will receive an e-blast today and another phone blast on Monday prior to Tuesday's advisory, speaking to these things in general detail.
And just a couple other questions. Yes, advisory would be at the same time at 12:58 when we are in distance learning, and that would include Wednesdays. That would change a little bit when we're in a hybrid model because of the lunch scheduling that would need to happen here, because that means some kids are physically here. And the only other question that I'm seeing that and we might have missed other questions, so I wasn't checking the chat when I was presenting, but when we are in person, the students would go class to class. So from, let's say it's Monday, first hour is a live class. The kids that are in the building would then go physically to their second hour class. Their second hour teacher would be there. That wouldn't be a live class. So kids potentially wouldn't be joining virtually because it's not a live class, but the teacher again would be directing who they might be meeting with. Again, some kids are going to be there physically and some kids they could invite to join. So it could be a dual thing, but that would be more invite only for kids that are at home, hybrid at home or distance only kids. But that's what it would look like when we're in a hybrid model where kids are actually here. They would be going class to class.
Any other questions regarding the schedule? All right, let's shift to the advisory meetings that will be happening on the 8th and 9th, Tuesday and Wednesday next week. So, Wanda, would you back up 1 month? So it has one-on-one. What that really means is one family and one teacher. So we're expecting parents, guardians to come with their child and to have a one-on-one meeting to get the year started out right. We think that's very important when we're in a distance learning kind of format. So, Wanda, would you? So you'll see here when the students and parent guardians come in, there will be a 40-minute meeting. We will be asking that you log into Schoology and PowerSchool so that this is more of a seamless operation than it was last spring. You will also pick up supplies and textbooks and get questions answered. And really the biggest part of this is to put a name, a face, start building a personal connection. If your child has not had this teacher before, who will be your child's advisor and will be one of your links as parents and guardians to our school. So we have put a lot of time and effort changing this so that it is an intimate meeting setting with you and your child to be able to have your questions answered. Normally, what we've done for the past, 30 some years, I know there's parents on here today that have gone through as students of mine. You would have been going to 6th grade and new 7th and 8th grade orientation where you would have walked through your schedule, opened your locker, met your teachers, etc. And it's kind of that thing that I talked about, that 80-20 and now 100% different, that we needed to change due to the pandemic. And we think that this will really be helpful in launching your child on the 10th and beyond. So Wanda, would you go to the next slide? So we want you to see what is actually going to happen. Every teacher has this agenda and we'll be marking through these items with you. So obviously introductions are a key piece. There's a paper copy. You'll be leaving with a box of items. Some of you will be leaving with musical instruments. We have all of those out to your child's advisors who, when they meet with you. So in this box, they will have your child's paper copy of your child's schedule. They'll be confirming your ability to use Schoology, PowerSchool, etc. And you should bring the device with you your child will be using, or you've confirmed that you need to pick up a device from our Library Media Center, who our library media specialists will give that information to you, or give you that technology item. Distance learning, we have some tips and guidelines, etc. We're explaining the attendance policies, how lunches will be taken care of, and other extraneous supplies. And then closing up. So it'll be a quick 40 minutes. And that's what we will be doing Tuesday and Wednesday, getting ready for everyone to attend school on Thursday the 10th. Next slide. Yep, next one, please. So in the box, as you can see here, depending upon your child's schedule, they'll have textbooks, the guidelines will be there, a mask has been given, other supplies that you may need. think of it, it's tailored to your child and the schedule that they're on. So every box is marked per student, and based upon if your child has art, may have art supplies, if depending upon the science class, may have science supplies, etc. That's what our teachers have been busy, and our instructional assistants getting this information and these supplies out to the advisors who will be meeting with you next week. Next slide. And the next one. So actually when I started this presentation, I really shared with you, we need your help. We need to partner with you. We can't do it alone. We know that. And so these key things are really important in order to set your child up to be successful in distance learning, we believe. If I had to put all of this and boil it down to one key word for middle school students, structure. Structure is a key to student success in this model, and even in the model when your child physically comes to school. Having patience with your child, following the school hours, providing grace to your child, to the teachers. They're all trying to work their way through this process of developing an efficient and effective learning model. I highly encourage you every Friday, once school starts, there will be electronically sent to you Oriole Time news. It's news of the moment and news that you need to have that's pertinent to your child in our school at that point in time. Giving your child or student opportunity for breaks and getting them to do some form of activity and eating well is also a requirement to helping them be successful. And finally, a regular sleep schedule is good for us all.
And Les, I want to really highlight one more thing on here. Contacting us proactively if you notice anything going on. I think it's this time that we're in more than ever. It's so important for us to be as best connected with parents. So if there's anything that you see, please reach out to us to have a conversation and see what more we can do to support whatever is going on. So I just wanted to highlight that one more time, Mr. Borg.
Thank you. And I want to give an example also to further emphasize that. I've had some parents call me this fall and say, my child struggled with distance learning last year, and I need to tell you that now. Obviously, it's too late now for us to help your child with their 3 months of learning last spring. But that's one of the reasons we put this up here, is we're asking you, we can't guess what you're thinking, and in some cases what your child is thinking, and tell us directly. We will work to try and meet your child's needs. Next slide. So do you have questions in regard to advisory, or any questions you'd like to just send our way?
And I do. There's one question that was too long for a chat answer. But in terms of the class size, our hope is that yes, our classes will be about half capacity. There's a little bit of variety where there's like some bigger rooms that we have here. So like our science rooms are a lot bigger in terms of square footage. So science classes we can staff a little bit higher just because we have more physical space in the classroom. Same with our Phy-Ed classes that meet in gyms, our music rooms. Again, if there's more square footage and more space in a classroom, that gives a little more flexibility in terms of the class size. But our work in September will really go into what each of our class sizes are. And this is where the alphabet comes into play in the hybrid model too. So I do all the scheduling in the school, and typically it's just the class size that I have to pay attention to. In September, we're going to look at the alphabet makeup of the classes to make sure that there isn't something that's overloaded. And that's where there could be potential scheduling changes if there's a class that would be above capacity, where we would say that this is too many kids at once to be in this specific classroom, but then also keeping in mind that, again, a bigger classroom allows a little more flexibility depending on what course we're talking about.
And so Jason was talking about the hybrid model. I want you to make sure that you know that we're in a distance model until at least October 5th. things are changing so quickly amongst districts, it's easy to get confused what districts are doing. We're in a distance model until October 5th. And then there's questions here about how do you expect classes like band and orchestra? So our teachers have developed a process last spring in which students would play their instruments, in which they would teach the class. The thing I can say to you, I was talking to the department chair today, and one of the things that they're hoping to do on Wednesdays is to connect individually and have individual lessons on Wednesday. They've asked to do that across orchestra, band, and choir. And we just haven't made that determination at this point in time, but they want to conduct individual lessons and give out individual practice times and things that they should work on and meet individually using our virtual format. So that hasn't fully been finalized, but that's the intent at this point in time.
And a couple other questions. We have not determined the question is, how will students move through the hallways once hybrid begins? We have not spent time on that yet because we know that that's about a month away, and we've really put our focus into distance learning at the start. So that's something that we know we have to work on. We do not have that mapped out at this point.
And in regard to special education support or IEP or our all of that would need to be covered through case manager and through special ed department. It's too individual for us to comment on at this point in time. In regard to hybrid learning, students will be expected to wear masks when in person. Everyone will be. I'm sitting in my office alone. That's why my mask is not on. So is Jason. As soon as we step outside of our office, we are wearing our mask. Everyone is expected to do so per the governor's order. You will see directions stating that. We're expecting that of parents and students, etc., on Tuesday to do that as well.
The one thing I just want to add to Catherine's question regarding band and some instruments, we have purchased and we haven't physically got them, but we've purchased like covers for instruments. I don't even know, this is like a totally new thing, and I'm not going to describe this the best, but there's like instrument covers that we've purchased. Every one of our music teachers submitted to the district what would be needed to run a safe, band program. With orchestra, there's not the breathing necessarily that there is in terms of choir, but I think singing mask is something else that we've purchased. So there's been additional purchases for some of our music classes. So that's some of the things that we're doing to make those classes more safe. Physical education is a little bit different, but again, we're going to have the gym in terms of a space to use. But I'd probably want us to go more to our PE staff about any more specifics in that. I know they've been meeting all week, but again, in a hybrid model, there's some things that we still don't, I'm going to say, fully have in place yet because we know it's about a month away. As the month is going to go fast. So
we've spent our time primarily on distance learning, like Jason said. And so, for example, every classroom will have to go through classroom by classroom and tape it out so that desks are 6 feet apart. And that will be happening once we get kids in the classroom, so to speak, with their teachers moving forward. Jason and I and the custodial staff and others will be making sure that every classroom is set up. We just haven't even been able to get to that, to doing that. I noticed some of our surrounding districts who said that they were starting right away with hybrid are delaying now the opening of school, or have shifted from hybrid to distance learning. And so we along with our partners, our neighbors, our educational institutions, there is some fluidity here that's happening. But we've been fortunate enough to be able to stay with our original plan at this point for the most part.
And to answer Leslie's question, in terms of when hybrid starts, the only difference is, and this is a big difference, but the only difference in terms of hybrid learning, so all distance, all my kids are virtually meeting. When hybrid starts, you have your in-person kids and your distance and hybrid at home kids. So that's where what the hybrid model will look like. As a teacher, I will now have, roughly half of my students physically in front of me while the rest of them are joining virtually. for those live class times.
And there's a question about, can you still opt for distance learning? I believe so. And if I'm wrong in that, I believe Sarah will tell me, but I believe we're still accepting that, and you would communicate that to the school district. Flower says yes as well, which is the administrative assistant to the superintendent. Let's see if there are other things. Anything else that you have here? I'm just trying to, the screen is flipping up. I'm still practicing on my distance learning techniques.
And to answer Mary's question, I would think at some point we would have to do a lot of communication before the hybrid process starts. Could there be another meeting like this? I don't think we have anything on the calendar, but very likely. We know there's going to have to be a lot more communication regarding hybrid, because there's a lot of details that come with the hybrid model and kids coming physically back here.
So I want to address the question here. Information will be recorded, etc. While we're in distance learning, and that's what we primarily focused on, and there are some things we haven't been able to make decisions on as it relates to the hybrid distance format. And I want to stress really today the distance piece. We're expecting students to attend their first hour class. So on Monday, there's a live session, first, third, fifth, and seventh periods. We're expecting our students, they're going to get their best instruction attending those classes during those time periods. And just like you were physically coming to school, we want you to attend those classes during those time periods. If you notice the schedule, it will be, there's hours starting and ending times for every one of those class periods, and teachers will be taking attendance. I believe it's as if the student is physically present with their teacher. So know that is the expectation, is that we really not wanting the child, as we're in distance learning, to be viewing this 9 o'clock at night or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We want them to stay with their class and to be attending class when the rest of their classmates are.
And I'll just answer with regard to recording videos. There's still some work that I think that is being done on that. What we have talked about as at a building, it would not be necessarily taping the entire lesson, like taping an entire 44-minute lesson. The thought would be that we would maybe tape the key parts, or like if there's any direct instruction, try to pare down a potential 44-minute video into a 5 or 10-minute video if that's the most pertinent information. Like if students are working in the class, I think we wouldn't, there's no reason to watch that, if that, you know what I mean? So but again, we're still working through that, but we're trying to make what we record be really the essential information that a student would need who was not able to attend live.
So how your child will know how to log in, that's going to be part of the advisory process, is that the advisory teacher will ask your child to log into PowerSchool, log into Schoology. You will be able to see how to log into the class through Schoology, and they will actually take the student through that process. That login will remain the same the entire time we're in distance learning. Won't be a new login each time, as we often do in the meetings that we have as adults.
Thanks, Jason. I just, so for the student support days can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. On the student support days during distance learning, is my daughter required to check in with her, like are all of the students checking in with their teachers, or is it just by sort of the appointment only, kind of like predetermined when she meets in? I'm just trying to figure out, like,
it's a good question.
And I apologize if you said it and I didn't understand it.
No, so we are having it all by teacher appointment and set up. So there is not like the expectation that people will be. The teacher will be directing when students would show up for that student support.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So there's a question from Debbie about about the amount of instruction. And so know that there is live instruction that's happening, like you said, two times per week, plus the flex, I call it the flex time. And then there may be assignments outside of that class time that students will be expected to do. So you address, which I understand rightfully so, that still with all the things that you have to learn with distance learning, et cetera, maybe you're alluding to there may be less time for your child to do these things, and are the same, meaning will they get overrun with doing things and information? We're focusing on the state standards first, what's been laid out by the state that's important for each subject area, and how that then lays out to us is through the essential learning. So we're going to focus on the essential learning and the state standards that we want students to come out of this class with Science 7 with at the end of the year. That will be first and foremost in the work that we do. The other things that will be added will be supplemental to that as we can put them into the teaching and learning process.
So right, so we will be prioritizing the learning to make sure it's the most important learning that students definitely will need moving forward. Like one thing, like being a math teacher, one thing in 7th grade that was the most important was positive and negative integers. If I knew if students didn't know how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide negative numbers, they were going to be unsuccessful moving forward, because that's something that they're going to see all the way throughout their math education. So that's where we will be prioritizing, you know, instruction standards, the most important ones that we see and we know that kids need to be successful moving forward.
So there's a couple of questions about last spring versus what's happening today, and I'm going to say I hope and believe that the work that we're doing today and what we have set up today will be more rigorous and consistent than it was last spring. I'm going to say to you that I'm actually saying I am proud of what the staff did last spring, in the respect that we had 2 days notice. We went from the governor saying the safest place for kids to be is in school the 3rd week of March, and by that Monday we were going to be out of school, and we thought for only 2 weeks and then back in after spring break. As we all know, we never came back. And so we had 2 days to really clear our stuff out and get ready for distance learning. We're working under a different distance learning model, one that is more comprehensive, consistent, simplistic, but the consistency is what I want to speak to. We heard from you loud and clear, and we know that to be one of the things that we're looking to provide is more of a consistent platform across all teachers in what we're doing. We think that's imperative so that the technology doesn't impede the student from getting the information they need to have, and that they don't have to spend all their time learning it. That's another one of the reasons we're making sure that the technology is brought in and that there is an understanding that happens before our school year actually starts. So I understand when you say you're not impressed by somewhere somebody said not impressed by something that happened last spring. Also last spring, we didn't really do much live instruction. That was really done on a catch-by-catch-can basis on our teachers' ability to be comfortable with it. We're now guaranteeing, as you know, 2 live sessions a week, and this 3rd one that will be occurring on more of an individual basis.
And I can speak to just the Schoology. So there is a difference for the most part between Schoology and what our teachers will be teaching from. So Schoology primarily, we are thinking, is going to be used to house information, but also will be where students will click on to get to the live teaching link. So for the most part, think of Schoology as the place that we're going to house information. There could be activities that are posted there. That's really what we're going to use Schoology for. We will primarily be using Google Meets, Google Classroom, or Zoom for the interactive teaching component and meeting with students. So again, Schoology is where you're going to access things, find things. Teachers will be posting activities, videos on Schoology, but the live teaching, and again, they're going to access the live teaching through Schoology, through a link, but then it's a different platform that we will be teaching from. But But for the most part, we are going to try to centralize more and try to make sure that all of our teachers are on the same page. We have talked about, like, everybody's going to be posting their classroom links in the same place. So we know that that was some confusion. We tried to do a better job of that in May, but we know from the start, again, that was some learning, that we need to be as consistent as possible across teachers to make sure for students and parents it is easy to find. If there's homework, you know where to access and find it. If you missed a lesson and there's a video to watch, or a recorded class, you know where to find that. Those are all things we've already talked about and hope to do a better job of from the spring.
There was a question asked about hybrid. When will there be more details about hybrid learning? I really can't give you a specific date at this point in time. You know, we're pushing really hard to make this 8th and 9th advisory experience one that's really good for families and students and teachers. And then we're pushing hard for our first couple of days of school, making sure that that gets set. Then we're, as I said, I think earlier, we're going to be turning more time as an administrative front office team of really getting to the hybrid learning part. I will say to you that this summer, there was a level of frustration. I was kind of chomping at the bit. What can I get out to parents? Normally, we would have that back to school packet. We would have had it out the 3rd week of July. We didn't even know definitively what we were going to do from the governor's office till the 31st, and then it went through the school board and finally to us. So I'm saying, and then what really ended up happening, and I'm going to say the community and you parents gave us a lot of grace, because it was only like, I don't know, 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago, and we just sent out our mailing in regard to what would be the components of distance learning that you'd heard about through the school board meetings. And you showed tremendous grace and patience for us. Then we blitzed you with email, voicemail, the packet. We gave you all the information, but in order for us not to have to backtrack, we really had to really be effective and efficient in our work and making sure it was right before we sent it out. And that's why it took so long. So it's going to take a little longer here. It's going to be mid-September here before we get more information out on hybrid. I like teaming with you, Jason. You read comments as I'm talking, and I'm doing the same for you.
I'm trying.
Let's see. Students you can access Google Meets through either, but it will be through Schoology. That will be the location of the login. And to Cooper, I think we answered that question, and you will give more information on login. I can't stress enough, bring the computer that you'll be using. And by the way, our entire building will be open access on that day. So you'll be able to pull up and use your computer with your advisory teacher present. We think that that's key to a less frustrating and successful experience. I know when I go on to Comcast and I want an explanation to something, I need a live voice many times. Even though many people might be able to resolve the issue by clicks and doing it electronically, I need someone to help me.
And Michelle, you kind of asked this twice, and these are good questions. We're thinking that students will go into Schoology to start, and then they will access their live link. And this is where we just purchased Zoom, and I know what I would use, and this is where Zoom has a lot more features than Google Meets right now. So Google Meets is under some, whatever you want to call, virtual construction. So they're planning to have a more robust platform around October. But Zoom already has a lot of the features that we believe that Google Meets and Google Classroom is going to be adding. So, and this is where we just got Zoom purchased. So this is where you might see some teachers that are using both or different ones. I believe that for the most part, once a teacher gets comfortable with something, they're going to stay with it. But right now, we know that Zoom has more functions than Google Meets and Google Classroom today, at least for what secondary teachers, middle school teachers are going to be potentially doing in terms of virtual instruction. So, but again, they'll access it through Schoology. And at some point, we're not saying everybody has to use Zoom or you have to use Google Classroom. There is choice that teachers have, but students will access whatever that is through the same way. If that makes sense.
And I've been speaking, I think I've used the word consistency 6 times, so it will sound inconsistent, maybe that we're offering Zoom with Hangout, and our teachers are very familiar with Hangout, but like Jason said, the sophistication of Zoom, being able to put kids into individual breakout groups and other things is so helpful that you're going to see teachers using both of those platforms, and there's no way around that at this point.
And to answer Kim's question around attendance, yes, the live instruction is when we'll be taking attendance, and then also during advisory, which is every day. So that's when, and that's what we'll be taking attendance. And yes, if the student does not show up, they would be marked absent. So the student does need to log into the live teaching classes, and those are the ones that we will be taking attendance on. And if there is technical difficulties, that's where I would send an email to that teacher whenever the technology is back up and running. We know these things are going to happen. We've also, part of what you're going to hear on the 8th and 9th, we're asking students, like if a teacher has tech issues, give them like 10 minutes, kind of like, at least that's what it was when I was in college. You know, you give the professor 10 minutes if they don't show up. We're kind of going to that same thing, that if a teacher has an internet connection or something, or our whole school goes down, give 10 minutes for us to get back up and running. But we know those things are going to come up, and just communication is important.
And the biggest, it isn't technical that we're taking attendance every period, the live period. The reason, one of the biggest reasons, is we want to make sure that connection is happening, that a student is connecting with their teacher and their classmates. It's so important with distance learning that it's happening regularly, that there's regular feedback given to the student, and the student has a chance to participate. And we're setting up systems behind the teacher that if a student isn't showing, there's going to be an infrastructure set up of what is happening, where is that student, why aren't they here, just like it would be if we physically expect a student to attend school. Oh, crazy hair day and all that stuff. That'll be fun. We have not built a lot. We have not had a lot of time to talk about that, although we've had our teachers this week practicing. They were giving instruction to their colleagues over certain things and kind of practicing lessons, if you will. And there were some zany things that went on during those times, especially as we talked about advisory and trying to make it fun for kids. So that's happening more organically, and the systems haven't been really put into place for Crazy Hair Day or School Pride Day at this point in time, but I think that'll come, and right now it's organic. Our teachers are very playful. I don't know anything, Kim, about MCA testing at this point. We have not talked about fall testing either. We're talking about library. We're talking about having this summer, because we had so much exciting construction. If you haven't been to our school, there's a big cement block that's sitting in front of our school, and that is going to be our new performing arts space. It's going to be fantastic. But we were relocated over to PSI, and Jason, Wanda, and I spent our summer over there, and we noticed that like one day a week, the library media center was opened up, and kids could come in to check out books. And we're in discussions with our library media specialist that that's a possibility here as well. So we're looking into that, have not made any decisions yet. not sure about how to answer the question on class lists at this point.
Yeah, those are typically things we don't publish. So that probably wouldn't happen unless you're directly talking to students that are sharing their individual schedules. You wouldn't know that until class actually started.
Well, we're coming into our final 8 minutes here. If there's anything else you want to get out as a question, either verbally or through the comment section, please do so now. We'll
to answer. And Dave, I think you asked that twice. I'm sorry we didn't get to the first one. I don't believe so. The only thing I can't speak to yet, like right now, like if students log in, then they have the full access to Google Classroom, Google Meet, Schoology, you know. So I don't think there would necessarily be applications. But as I say that, I don't exactly know how Zoom is going to work. If Zoom works just like Google Meets, as soon as they get logged into their account, they're going to have access to it. But I don't. It's new, and I'm not sure about Zoom, but everything else, I don't think there would be any other applications that would need to be downloaded. But again, can't say for sure right now.
So I'm not really sure about allowing building prior to school start time. There, you know, our new start time when we get physically, well, our new start time is 9:10 to 3:52. So there will be X amount of time that our building will be open ahead of that, but not very much time, like 20 minutes ahead of 9:10 is where I think our building will be opening up, except for a few unusual circumstances, which I really, it would be too difficult, take me too much time to explain now. So really our building, you know, we used to open our building at 7:15 last year. It seems so long ago. We opened our building 7:15. This coming year, because of shifting of school start times, our building, at least this point, tentatively, we're at 8:50. Will be that time. Maybe a little sooner than that. That's not totally up. That's not totally decided. It's a little unfortunate. We have what we're doing here, reshifting our whole school while we're also shifting our start time. So that hasn't totally been worked out. There is an option to connect via phone as well. I know there is for Google Hangout. Do you know, Jason? I would assume there is for Zoom as well.
I'm sorry, I'm catching up on the chat.
Yeah, so there's a question, if video goes down, can we connect via phone? And you can on Google Hangout, and I don't know enough about Zoom, but it's more sophisticated. I got to believe there is.
That's a good point.
Cooper helped me there. Well, I want to take this opportunity again to welcome you back. We all at the middle school have this can-do success attitude that we're going to take this unusual circumstance we find ourselves in and make a great learning experience for your child, your family, and for us. And we can't wait to have you and your kids back in session full time. But absent that, we're going to do our best to connect with you and your family and have it be the experience that all of us want it to be. We hope that you have a great Labor Day. The questions are still, or the statements are still coming in. I'm gonna sign us off here. Have a great Labor Day weekend. We'll see you either on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.